Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're connecting from today. Welcome to our YouTube live stream. With all the political crazy talk, annexations, mass deportations, and other funny talk in the news, many people are looking up north to Canada as a safe and politically neutral country to reside in, whether temporarily until the dust settles in the US or maybe even permanently. With the Canadian dollar now at its lowest since 2016, yeah, I do keep track, and we expect it to drop even lower this year, well, based on the central bank's indications. This means it's a great buying opportunity. It's like the buy signal many traders and investors talk about when sourcing investment opportunities globally. What do you mean by buying opportunity? I mean the cost of setting up in Canada. With the USD Canadian dollar exchange rate at its lowest it's been for years, it costs peanuts to apply for any of the business immigration programs we will be covering in today's live stream. Whether you want to set up your business here in Canada, invest in an existing business for yourself, your family, and reside temporarily, going back and forth between the US and Canada, or stay permanently. We have all the options available to which you will be covering in this YouTube live stream for entrepreneurs, investors, and self-employed people. Unedited, uncensored, no special effects, just like the rest of our YouTube videos, just the exposed truth, like all our content out there already. Quick introduction, I'm Reza, the founder and CEO of INWE Immigration, your gateway to second, third, or even fourth residencies and citizenships, no matter which country. We're thrilled to offer our clients an expanding portfolio of 20 countries and services that opens up a world of possibilities for our clients overseas seeking residencies and citizenship solutions. At INWE, we've helped thousands of families since 2018 from over 55 different countries navigate through the complex landscape of business and investment migration. We cover Europe, Central America, North Americas, the Caribbean islands, and even New Zealand. Whether you're seeking a fast track to residency, looking to invest in real estate abroad in terms of diversification, aiming to retire comfortably and enhance your quality of life, or finding crypto-friendly tax countries, or perhaps even acquire direct citizenship without moving anywhere, whether it's for yourself or future generations, this is what we offer our clients. We provide more than just visa services. It's the whole process. It's turnkey solution, helping you with the government policies, paperwork, cultural and language barriers, and to support your portfolio diversification, relocation, investment for you and your family. And sometimes you don't even need to relocate. If you want to ask us more questions, engage with our office, make sure you visit our website and fill out the contact form. It's in the description of this video. So let's get to it. What do we got, folks? Things are getting heated in the US. And if you're thinking of coming up north, there are several options to consider. No matter if our prime minister has resigned or not here in Canada, whether federal elections will take place in April this year or not, the immigration department of the government is still functioning. And we do still have programs available for entrepreneurs, investors, and self-employed professionals. Remember that you don't need to move outright, but you can have Canada as a plan B to stay close to home, meaning your business, your investments, your operations in the US, because we got to face it. The US is one of the largest markets out there. So many people may not want to just move out permanently, but they need a plan B, a safe, neutral place just in case to lay low. Let's just put it that way. If this video was made back in 2021, you would have probably had 10 program options to pick from. But it's 2025, and considering the political atmosphere in North America, you only have these options at the moment if you're a serious investor or entrepreneur planning to come here temporarily or permanently to Canada. We're going to cover both a temporary residency option for you and 2 permanent residency options in the short lives video today on YouTube. If you're an American citizen, you have 3 options at the moment. Keep in mind, 2 of these options are available to any nationality and not just American citizens. Of course, this excludes being sponsored by your family member. Like, let's say you have a spouse or common law who is a Canadian, well, they can sponsor you. The skilled immigration programs are pretty much coming to a dead end, just leaving us with certain investor and business entrepreneurial programs. The number one option is CUSMA, and this is no specific order, by the way. So CUSMA being the in existence since the NAFTA agreements were created between Mexico and US. It's the Canadian-US Mexico agreement. It allows investor work permits, which can provide you a temporary residency to set up or invest in an existing or new business in Canada. The second one is the federal startup visa business immigration program, active since 2013 and still going strong. And then the third option, last but definitely not least, the provincial entrepreneur program, which is some of the oldest business immigration programs active for more than 25 years in Canada have been these provincial entrepreneur programs. They're all very different, these three options that we're covering today. So stay tuned, and we're going to go through them one by one, give you a high-level overview, some comparisons, advantages, disadvantages, and why you would pick such a program. Let's start with the CUSMA investor work permit. Well, the U.S.-Mexico agreement, also known as CUSMA, which allows citizens of Mexico, U.S. to apply as investors and do business in Canada. The investor work permit is managed and processed by the federal government, and you can apply online. We don't recommend applying at the border for American citizens. Please note that. The work permit allows investors to have a temporary residency inside Canada with their eligible dependent family members. This means spouse, common law partners can receive an open work permit, and dependent children can receive study permits. Keep in mind that dependent children, as per the Canadian government regulations, should be under the age of 22, single and financially dependent, like fully financially dependent. Of course, and we all know a lot of kids are financially dependent, but of course, if any children have medical issues and are medically incapable of being independent or leading an independent life, even if their age is beyond 22, so even if they're 24, 5, or 27, this can be accepted by the government as an eligible dependent, but it depends on the provided supporting documentation because the office has to be convinced. The work permit for the CUSMA investor work permit is issued for 1 year initially, and then it can be renewed for an unlimited number of times as long as the investor continues to meet eligibility of the program. And these are just 1 year renewals. The investment should be an active and substantial investment in an industry in Canada. There's no specifics about the industry or the amount to be invested. For example, buying properties and collecting rent would not be considered under this category, as this is called passive investment. The Canadian government is looking for active businesses and operations where the U.S. citizen is investing in a capex or people to run a business locally inside Canada operationally. The business can be existing or brand new. Typically, there's no specified investment, but if you want a rough idea on the minimum figure that the government expects, it could be approximately 250,000 Canadian dollars or higher. This depends on the industry and the location where you're planning to do the investment. As I said, it could be a brand new startup business, or it could be an existing business. If you're investing in rural regions, it can be a lower investment than this one. If you're planning for investments in Toronto or Vancouver, it could even be higher, because the thresholds are higher here. How much time do you need to spend inside Canada under this temporary residency program for the investor category of the CUSMA? That's completely up to you. As long as the business is operational and you have made the investment, it is logical that you can go back and forth for your work and don't need to be inside the country the entire time. There's no residency requirements for this program. However, if you don't spend any time in Canada at all, the officer may ask you, why did you even bother applying for this, or why are you planning to renew your work permit if you're not even here? Because you can technically own and invest in businesses in Canada without even coming here. So you got to keep that in mind. Interesting fact of the day, you can own, buy, invest, and set up businesses in Canada without even stepping foot in the country. Only managing and working inside the country requires a work authorization known as a work permit. You can even have a bank account in Canada by just coming in with a visitor visa or electronic travel authorization for Americans. So just coming in as a visitor or tourist, you could have a bank account for yourself personally and a bank account for the business you just set up or invested in. This is pretty easy. I mean, it's very relaxed. This program under the CUSMA program does not give you permanent residency, so you got to keep that in mind. This is just for the sake of running or managing a business inside Canada and staying here as a temporary resident, maybe with your family, maybe not. Some of you may wonder, why didn't we mention the intercompany transfer in this little live stream. It's simple. The eligibility criteria are significantly higher since the changes announced end of 2024 for the intercompany transfer to Canada. And for American citizens, it's simple and easy just to apply under the CUSMA investor category versus the intercompany transfer. And of course, the intercompany transfer is still there, and some people may still opt to do that if they're eligible, because you do need to be a multinational at this point. However, and there are requirements of major investments and very strict regulations. That's why CUSMA is a bit more flexible. Now let's look at the other two program options, which can actually lead you to permanent residency in Canada: the Startup Visa Program and the Provincial Entrepreneur Program. And of course, there's no self-employed program anymore at the time being, because the government has paused that. The self-employed was for people in cultural arts or athletics. Hence, they would be going through these other programs that we're covering today. The Startup Visa Business Immigration Program. The Startup Visa Program, also known as SUV, is probably one of the most marketed and popular programs for Canadian business immigration. It's impossible for you to contact an immigration law firm and not be pitched this program if you're seeking PR status in Canada, i.e. permanent residency. Why is it so popular? Okay, well, it's the only direct permanent residency program for business immigration in existence for Canada. Full stop. It is a federally mandated program, meaning you are not confined to staying or residing or settling in one specific city, region, community, or province. It's federal. You can apply for direct permanent residency directly from your home country, even if you have never stepped foot into Canada. You can stay back in your home country until the permanent residency is issued. We do recommend all the startup visa applicants to at least have a 1 or 2 trips to Canada during the waiting time to set up their bank account, maybe meet their designated organization, which is endorsing them, and maybe some potential business meetings. Although it's not written as a rule, it's just a recommendation. The program allows for an optional work permit if you choose to stay inside Canada until the PR is processed. The PR processing time can be anywhere from 18, 24 months or more, depending on whether you're endorsed by a priority organization or non-priority, right? And this work permit is an open work permit. So you can actually be hired somewhere else while you're working on your startup. So it's quite flexible. This program is open to any nationalities. You don't need to be just American. There are absolutely no restrictions on which nationality you're from. It's open to the whole world. You just need to meet the minimum eligibility criteria of the program for startup visa and apply. This is the only federal program which leads to PR, whereby 1 to 5 co-founders can apply together and immigrate with their families as one group, one business to Canada. Each co-founder has to meet the minimum eligibility criteria of the SUV program, which we'll cover, and own a minimum of 10% voting share rights in the startup business that's moving. And all the founders combined should own more than 50% of the business, the founders who are immigrating. You can have external investors or other founders who are not immigrating, okay, and they're shareholders of the company, but they should remain minority shareholders. Now that you know why it's so popular, let's look at the eligibility criteria of the Startup Visa Business Program. Proof of language by taking an English or French language exam, such as IELTS or CELPIP. This is mandatory. It doesn't matter if you're born in the US, UK, Ireland, Scotland, or Australia, and only speak English. Well, everyone needs to take this exam to prove language ability. It's mandatory, no exceptions. A score of 5554, we also call it CLB 5, meaning everything, all the bands of reading, writing, speaking, listening are 5, and reading should be 4, and it should be the general exam in terms of the language exam, not the academic one. This is the base requirement. Having a scalable and innovative business concept, whether it's brand new, just on paper, or an existing business, and it has to be endorsed by a designated organization, which is part of the Startup Visa Business Program, such as an incubator, venture capital, or angel investor. It's outlined on the Startup Visa government website with a list of these designated organizations. This means if you want to open up a restaurant, coffee shop, ice cream shop, or a regular brick and mortar business, this program, Startup Visa Program, is not for you. Refer to the next program we're covering in this live stream if that's the type of business you're looking to start in Canada, because that'll be more suitable for you. Another eligibility criteria is that after you've received an approval from the designated organization, which is sort of sponsoring you, that incubator, angel investor, venture capital, you'll need to receive a letter of support from them with your name on it and potentially the names of your other co-founders if they plan to immigrate with you to Canada. Remember, the SUV program allows 1 to 5 co-founders to immigrate. So it could be a solo founder, or it could be 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no restrictions. Up to 5. The letter of support is valid for 6 months, allowing you to apply for the PR within the time frame that's been stated on the letter of support, and optional work permit if you choose to. And remember, the designated organization are only the ones that are listed on the Canadian immigration website. And we're sharing that link on the article from this video that we're posting on our website. Before the designated organization issues the letter of support for you, they want to make sure that you meet the rest of the eligibility criteria besides the proof of language. Proof of minimum settlement funds, which is mandatory for the PR applications coming to Canada. The funds have to be shown in a 6-month statement with liquid funds. Not shares in a company or properties or fixed assets. So publicly traded equities, bonds, bank term deposits, investment funds are all accepted as long as the redemption clauses and penalties are clearly defined on the paperwork that you're submitting to the immigration department as your proof of settlement funds. Proof of settlement funds just means you've got enough money not to starve to death when you arrive to Canada, basically based on your family size. There's a government table that shows the bare minimum, so make sure you're above the bare minimum, and it's based on your family size. This is updated every year according to inflationary indicators, so you always have to meet the current requirements. So even if you submitted your application 2 years ago and in 2025 there's updated figures, if the officer asks you for updated statements, you need to meet the new requirements. You do need a police clearance certificate, which is basically a criminal record check and clearance report from any countries you, your spouse, or children of the age of 18 or over have stayed in 6 months or more, whether studying, working, residing for whatever reason since the age of 18. This is not a published minimum requirement that I'm talking about at this point, because the Canadian government hasn't posted this, but it is expected that you have investment funds to invest in your startup, whether it's from your own funds, bootstrapping, or from external financial institutions who have already committed in writing to invest in your startup. This is not a requirement as per the regulations, but they will question, well, how are you going to start a business or this startup? How are you going to make it work if you have no money or the investors have no money who are planning to come over? After you have the letter of support, you'll submit your permanent residency application with your family members. All co-founders of your startup will apply at the same time. I mean, of course, there'll be a gap, but the point is everyone's applying as soon as they get the letter of support. This is the key step right after you've been endorsed and issued the letter of support from your designated organization as part of the startup visa program. During the waiting time for your permanent residency, the Canadian Immigration Office will issue a file number within 4 to 8 months after you've submitted your permanent residency and ask you for updated financials, such as proof of minimum settlement funds, again, updated business plan, investment funds, progress report of your business, and other factors. They may even ask you regarding your expertise in the field or past entrepreneurial or senior management experiences. Therefore, when you provide proof, it requires clear supporting documentation. For the updated settlement funds, you need to provide another 6-month statement, again, with justification of any amounts of $5,000 or over that have been debited or credited during the 6-month period. Please keep in mind that you need to meet the eligibility at two points with the startup visa program. Hi, Angel. One is at the time of PR application. You have to meet all the minimum eligibility, otherwise they'll send it back to you saying you're ineligible or the application is incomplete. And then the second time at least is later on. It could be 6 months to 12 months later when the officer actually starts reviewing your file. They will ask for all these details again, not the language exam again, because that's valid at the time of application, but in terms of your financial documents. And then sometimes they ask for new police clearance reports. They'll ask for new updated immigration forms, right? During the time you wait for your permanent residency to be processed, you can either apply for the work permit or stay back in your home country. When the PR is approved, you can land in Canada with your dependent family members. A few points of concern that are not listed anywhere in the government website in terms of expectations for the startup visa program. You're expected to invest and run the startup business. Doing nothing during this waiting time will lead to a refusal. You're expected to bring benefit to the Canadian economy through innovation and investment of the startup. You are expected to do something in Canada while you wait for your PR, whether it's moving your financial centers there, investing, hiring, setting up a business, meeting with contacts such as customers, suppliers, channel partners, or similar activities. All because the point is you're planning to move the headquarters and the main operations and manage it from Canada. So if you haven't done anything during this, let's say 2-year waiting time, then that could be questionable. All this can be done either remotely through multiple short visits as visitors, or through your operations in Canada if you plan to come within a work permit, or you have a partner who's going to do that. After your PR is approved, you can sell or reside anywhere in Canada, but the program does not cover the province of Quebec. However, after you receive your permanent residency card inside Canada, you could move to Quebec if you choose to, because the Canadian regulations prohibit the they cannot prohibit you from moving anywhere inside the country after you're a permanent resident, not before. Remember, folks, we're always posting about these key details for investors and entrepreneurs for new programs and policy changes seeking residencies, passports, and tax relief. And if that's what you're interested in, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And keep in mind that since April 2024, the Startup Visa program has been set up into two ways. One is a priority processing and one is non-priority. So certain designated organizations which are sponsoring, endorsing your startup are labeled priority, meaning your PR will be processed faster. Some are not labeled priority, meaning that they will process them when they have time. And whenever the priority processing is completed, they'll have time for the non-priority. So I do recommend just to work with the priority processing. Now that we've covered the Startup Visa Business Program and the CUSMA Investor Work Permit, we'll also explain the Provincial Entrepreneur Program, which can also lead to permanent residency in Canada and does not require any innovation. And it is the oldest business immigration program in place in these provinces. Canadian fun fact: we have 10 provinces and 3 territories in Canada. Almost all of these provinces and territories run their own provincial entrepreneur programs, almost all. These programs are called the Provincial Entrepreneur Nominee Programs under the entrepreneurial stream. Each province has their own variation of the program, but they all use the same framework, which is a copy-paste of each other, as the government bureaucrats obviously lack creativity. We're not going to read you each line-by-line regulation for each province, but we will let you know the key facts for you to consider, what they all share, that basic framework, and which programs are easier, faster, slower, more expensive, or difficult when comparing them all. Here's some key facts of the entrepreneurial provincial programs in Canada. They're all work permit-based programs which lead to permanent residency. This means that when you're invited and approved by the provincial government, you will apply for a work permit, run the business inside that province or community that you've been you've been selected to, and you've selected to go there. Then you will be nominated for permanent residency after that time period to run the business in that province before completing it, and then potentially being nominated for permanent residency and applying. This is a very hands-on program requiring you to stay in that city or province more than 80% of the entire time. You can't be overseas for half the time. No way. You have no geographic flexibility under this program to move to another city or region or province until you're a permanent resident. You have to remain in that specific area, that city or region, until you receive your permanent residency. The provinces have points-based matrices which require you to calculate your points and submit an expression of interest, also known as an EOI, before being invited to participate in this program for that specific province. It's not federal, it's provincial. It is not based on you just applying and starting, but the province selects you and invites the candidates it wants. Some of these provinces are very points driven and some of them are very discretionary. So they kind of handpick who they like. Minimum investment and net worth are part of the provincial regulations, which stipulate exactly how much you should invest as a bare minimum and what your net worth has to be eligible for this program. Net worth meaning fixed assets, globally all your assets with you and your spouse. A net worth audit report and interview are part of the program requirements. These are mandatory, no exceptions. The duration of running your business before being nominated for permanent residency with that work permit is anywhere from 6 to 18 months, depending on which province you select, and we'll cover that. Currently, the province of Ontario, where Toronto is located, does not have an active entrepreneurial program. Therefore, out of the 10 provinces that we have in the country, you currently have 9 options at the moment for entrepreneurial programs. Unlike the intercompany transfer, the C11 self-employed entrepreneurial federal work permit, or the CUSMA investor work permit, the provincial nominee entrepreneurial stream leads to permanent residency. It's sometimes difficult to get in, but it's easy to get out and get your PR because it's a clear path and you know what the expectations are. Everything is like a blueprint in this program because the province mandates it. All types of businesses which are not passive are welcome for this program. No innovation is required. Restaurants, mechanic shops, manufacturing, supply chain, coffee shops, catering, and other types of brick and mortar are all welcome and accepted under this program. It does not have to be technologically driven or related. The province with the longest time period to lead to permanent residency, i.e. you running that business inside that province, is BC, specifically Vancouver and the surrounding regions. The minimum investment is published at $200,000, but I've never met anyone who's actually been invited by the province with that amount of money for Vancouver. If you did a little bit on the outskirts or up north, 200,000 is a good number. But if you choose to be in the greater metropolitan region, well, expect nothing less than $400,000 investment in order to be invited for the program. It takes 18 months to run the business inside Vancouver before being considered for nomination. The lowest investment entrepreneurial programs in Canada are the Alberta Rural Program, $100,000 minimum investment, $300,000 net worth, and the BC Rural Entrepreneur Program, which is different from Vancouver program in the northern parts of BC. So there's specific designated communities that are participating in this program. And again, it's $100,000 minimum investment and $300,000 net worth. The fastest timelines to run a business before being eligible and being nominated for PR by the province are Manitoba at 6 months and New Brunswick in 6 months. Manitoba being in the prairies, right center, smack center in Canada, and New Brunswick is being one of the small Atlantic provinces out east. So they allow you to run the business for 6 months before submitting your paperwork to be processed for nomination in order to be able to apply for a permanent residency. The friendliest province for Provincial Entrepreneur Program is Prince Edward Island. It is the smallest province in the whole country. Downtown is a street. It's like one little street that's probably like your neighborhood's residential street, like where you live right now. But it's very friendly. The provinces we don't recommend applying unless you have family or relatives or friends there is Saskatchewan, because the investment amount is not lower, the timeline is not an advantage, and there's no specific lifestyle advantage at all. If you don't want to submit your proof of language initially, you only have British Columbia program available to you, the base program, which means Vancouver, the major cities there. If all the other provincial entrepreneur programs do require proof of language at the time of application. The process to apply for the provincial entrepreneur program for all of them is pretty much the same. Complete an exploratory trip to that province community where you plan to invest in. Have a business plan concept ready to submit with your expression of interest, which is basically your profile, on the provincial portal online. Wait for an invitation to apply. This could be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. It depends how many points you have and how strong your profile is. After you receive an ITA invitation to apply, initiate a net worth audit by a third-party designated CPA firm appointed by the province, which you will pay for them to check and verify that you meet the minimum net worth requirements. Most of the net worth requirements outside of the rural regions start at $500,000 to go up to $600,000 Canadian dollars, you and your spouse combined. Submit all your supporting documents, which verify all the points you claim with your expression of interest, your work experience, your proof of language, your business ownership, senior management experience, everything. Attend an in-person interview in the province at the PNP office, wherever you've signed up for. Sign a business performance agreement after they've accepted you after post-interview, which states how much and what you'll invest in exactly. As we call it that, a blueprint based on your business plan and concept that you originally submitted with your initial application. Receive a letter of support from the province to apply to the federal government for that work permit. Come to Canada and start the investment and operate and manage that business for that timeline that was stated in your business performance agreement. And then you have to complete the entire investment and get that business going. Submit the final report to the province after you've spent that amount of time running the business. They will issue a nomination certificate that can take 4 to 5 months at least. And then you apply for the federal government with that nomination certificate because you're called a provincial nominee now. And then it may take around 15, 16 months to get that permanent residency, in which time you're still running that business in that province. This entire process can take 2 to 4 years, depending on which program and province you pick. Yeah, it's long, it's hands-on, but some people like it. Whether you prefer a temporary residency such as CUSMA work permit, the permanent residency program, such as the startup visa, where you just apply straightforward, or perhaps the work permit to PR program, such as the Provincial Entrepreneur Program. It's up to you to decide based on your budget, how much time you want to spend in Canada, and where you want to truly reside and settle in the country. We're happy to help and compare for you the programs and provide you the right advice if you meet all the eligibility criteria. You can reach out to us through our intake form on our website. If you like immigration hacks, creative immigration solutions, or key analysis and the exposed truth about immigration policies, updates, you can click on the subscribe button for our YouTube channel. Thanks again, and I'm going to just jump into our questions and comments on our YouTube right after this. Thanks for tuning in. If you see the potential for yourself, your family, your clients in securing a second or third citizenship, make sure you stay connected with us for the latest updates and opportunities in the global residency and citizenship. In INWE, we're dedicated to crafting solutions that meet your specific immigration needs with clear upfront processes and payment milestones for peace of mind. We offer a variety of programs to match your goals backed by our experience. Our commitment is transparency, choice, and security. With comprehensive professional errors insurance and client trust accounts in Canadian banks, we protect your interests. We have a multilingual team speaking 10 languages, and we've helped clients from over 55 countries. To take the next step, click the link down below, fill out our intake form, or if you like, you can even book a one-on-one consultation with me or any of my immigration team members using the link below in the description of this video. And of course, we've got a couple comments and questions on our YouTube audience. Angel says, good morning, Reza. Have a great year ahead. Thank you, Angel, for tuning in as always. Appreciate it. Samir Nat says, hi, can SUV startup visa essential members who have already applied to closed work permits, can they now apply for the open work permit by canceling the original closed work permit? Technically, you cannot convert until that work permit expires, Samir. You could withdraw and reapply, but, yeah, I mean, it could be done. We haven't done that before. Technically, it could be done if you withdrew, but that's before the decision is issued, not after. Do you think SUV applicants under the priority queue who applied for the PR in mid-2024 can possibly get the confirmation PR by the end of 2025? Yeah, potentially, yes. We've had clients who are now under process, and they applied around that timeline, and we believe that they will, in the first half of 2025, receive it if they are a priority designated organization. Here's another question by Samir. For the SUV startup visa essential members, is it easier to get approval for a closed work permit versus getting approval for an open work permit? Consider the current curb on temporary foreign workers. It's tough for both. Right now, we are seeing a huge rise in SUV work permit refusal, Samir. Open work permit will be even more difficult than closed, but they're both difficult, and there are high refusal rates right now. So they're both bad, but in general, open work permit would be a little bit more tricky to do. But right now, they're both so bad that in general, they're refusing so many work permits for SUV that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Folks, thanks for joining in today. We're here every Thursday on our live stream to discuss various global mobility, whether it's Europe, North America, Central America, um, or even New Zealand. We've got 20 countries in our portfolio, and the key is to make sure you understand the program before you're applying. You understand your options, and that's key. We've got another question from our audience members. Dr. A32. Hello, Reza. Thank you for all the time you do. Please, is there any chance that the government will scrap essential and non-essential? Great question. And yes, there's been talk about that, Dr. A32, that they've been asking designated organizations like what their thoughts are about essential, non-essential, and no designated organization. Nobody knows why they even have essential, non-essential. Like, it's ridiculous. It's useless. It's a waste of space. It's a waste of everything. So potentially, we believe that if they do make changes and if they want to make the program a little bit more clean cut, they do scrap the essential, non-essential. But it's not guaranteed, but it's on the table. So it's a great question. Samir says, typically, what's OS on the IELTS timeline for expiration as per the IRCC for SUV? So Samir, if you're talking about the language exam, IELTS, the IELTS general exam has to be valid or self-pip for 2 years. It's valid for 2 years. When you submit your PR application under any program in Canada, at that time, it has to be valid. If your PR takes longer and this IELTS or language exam expires, that doesn't matter. At the time of application, it was valid, and that's all that's needed. Okay? If you don't have any more questions, folks, we'll be back here next Thursday live on YouTube, and we'll probably cover something exciting like EB5 US, Portugal, Panama, Italy, or one of the Caribbean islands for your direct passport requirements. Yeah, buy a passport, direct citizenship without moving anywhere from your home country. Thank you, Samir. Thank you, Angel, for tuning in. Thank you, Samir, Nath, and Dr. 832, and anyone out there who's watching this now or potentially in the future. We'll see you next week. And remember what I always say, apply. Don't apply for the sake of applying. Apply with a plan. Okay? Thanks again, folks. Take care. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye now.